Hello and welcome to another episode of Sensational She-Geek live from Yancey Street. Today is Monday, April 26th, and this is episode 15A. This is a very exciting episode this week because we are starting things off. We are kicking the episode off with the Falcon and the Winter Soldier finale discussion. There's obviously so much to discuss for that finale episode, and then after that we're going to dive straight into the Mortal Kombat movie, which is on, of course, HBO Max, and I think it's in streaming, but I watched it on HBO Max. Then we are going to actually discuss for a little bit the Invincible TV show, which is on Amazon. After that, we'll go a little bit into some Shang Chi movie theories that I do have. I really want to kind of discuss some things I've been thinking about based on that movie. September seems so far away. And then after that, we will get into the comic book poll list for the week. I am still going over that, and I will also be talking in that portion of the podcast. I will be having a note about a potentially very valuable comic coming out this week and how you might be able to get that. So stick around if you are interested in that. And then the episode will wrap up with the July DC and Marvel solicitations for things that I find relevant and new or ending series. So stick around for all of that goodness. But as I said, we are, of course, starting with the Falcon and the Winter Soldier finale because I kind of figure that's what people are mostly here for. So we'll go ahead and kick it off with that this week. For my Falcon and the Winter Soldier finale discussion, this is going to be overall a very positive review here, but I do have one major complaint that I will get to at the end here, but I'll save that to the end so you don't have to deal with me bitching the entire time about it. But it's not really minor, but we'll get there when we get, we'll talk about that when we get there. So the episode, of course, starts outside the GRC meeting, where everybody is kind of prepping for whatever attack may come because everybody now knows that this is what Karli is planning on doing. We get a great scene of Sam bursting through the window in his new Captain America suit from Wakanda. Really, really happy that Bucky was able to do that for him, and it translates so well to the screen. They did an almost exact translation from the comic books to the live-action version of this comic book suit for him as Captain America. And it works out so well. It's actually almost kind of works better in the live action thing, and I'm so excited for the future of this costume if we may see variations of it. He never had variations of it in the comic. He wasn't Captain America for that long because, people hated it, and so they switched it back. So I'm really excited for the potential of potentially different Captain America Sam Wilson costumes that we might be getting. I think that's really, a really cool thing that we might be getting. But anyway, happy that it translates so well to screen. He looked killer in it with those, the red, white, and blue wings and everything. A flying Captain America. Steve Rogers could never, and definitely somebody got mad at me for saying that just now. Karli and her gang are there checking things out at the GRC meeting. Undercover, she calls Bucky to try and convince him she's right. Obviously, he doesn't go for that. I'm not really sure why she still thought he would after all this time and everything that, has happened. She tells her friends at one point this really, honestly, alarming speech about how they should all be willing to die for this cause, even if it won't matter if they die. And they all kind of look at each other very unsure because obviously she clearly didn't take their opinions. She didn't ask anybody's opinion on this before deciding that. It gets to the point where they do the one world, one people, where she says one world and they say one people, but they don't respond. And she just kind of looks at them and then says it, again, really forcefully. And they kind of, oh yeah, one people, it's like, you lost them there, honey. That was, they don't want to die here. You clearly didn't cover that before we got to this point. Sharon makes her appearance as well undercover. Spoilers at this point in the episode because you don't really know this confirmed, although at this point we kind of had to have known it because how else is she getting all of this stuff done? And plus that mask she wore, it was the same one that Black Widow wore, so clearly she has some really tight underground contacts. But anyway, she's obviously the power broker. We get that confirmed later on in the episode, and she's here to get even with Karli. She hired Batroc to be undercover with Carly, I suppose, and we get that later confirmed as well, and report back to her so she is aware of everything that they're up to and can kind of be one step ahead in a sense. They eventually end up evacuating everybody from the GRC meeting building, whatever that is there in DC. And a secret flag smasher puts heavy duty locks. I suppose he's a secret. He's on their side, I guess. He puts heavy duty locks on the vans that they load the government people into. Once they're all loaded in there, so that they won't be able to get out. And Sharon witnesses this all happen, so she gets the guys on board with it and brutally murders one of the flag smashers. And for some reason, nobody questions that. She just straight up killed this guy. We get a really beautiful scene of Sam chasing a helicopter through the air after he fights Batroc himself. He does a really sick throw the shield, catching it mid-air. This is so cool. Captain America with wings. And he doesn't even have super serum, and he is killing it. It looks so cool. It looks so good. He ends up getting some intel with Red Wing, his little, you know, it's a bird in the comic that he can communicate with, I believe. But here in the movie, it's obviously a little bit more grounded than that, and they went with the, what is it? It's just like a little drone, basically, that comes off of the back of his suit, and it flies up, and so he got some intel through Red Wing based on the people who are inside the helicopter. Finds out that one of the hostages inside this helicopter is actually trained to fly helicopters. So he manages to get her attention and contact her on her phone and tell her that through Bluetooth in her ear to be ready to grab the wheel. They time it out right so that he takes out the pilot and she is able to save the helicopter before crashing. It was a really great scene, honestly, of him working in the moment to solve a situation the best that he could, utilizing every resource at his disposal in a way that you just know John Walker could never, ever touch. And yes, I am saying John Walker this time because John Walker would 100% be the kind of Captain America in the situation. Obviously he wouldn't have the wings, but if he did for some reason end up in the situation where he was able to rescue or was trying to rescue the people in the helicopter, he would not think to work with the hostages. He would probably I feel like he would just be he would be so obsessed with himself being the one to save the day that he wouldn't even think of teamwork, you know. And then of course the flag smashers, and Carly, they take those hostage vans that we mentioned earlier. And they find her, I guess, it's some seemingly random spot, and they light fires beneath one of the vans in an attempt to basically cook the people inside. And again, her people are, like, really unsure about this when she gives that order. Bucky is able to rip the lock off one of the vans, the one that's on fire, and get the people out of that, so that's all good. John Walker then shows up, of course, with his janky-ass shield, and fights them off for a little bit alongside Bucky. His shield did offer a surprisingly sturdier amount of, you know, support than I think it really should have been for a hobby welder. But it does make a hilarious tin can sound when it's struck, and definitely does not bounce back for him when he throws it the way a real one would. So from the start, it's kind of a womp womp of a fight for him. He shows up with this, like, great energy and effort of, I'm gonna take you guys down, and then he throws the shield and it just goes clunk clunk, and he has to run over and get it. It's very anticlimactic for him. So there's still that other van. It was two vans they had of hostages. The flag smashers managed to push the remaining van almost off this construction site or bridge, whatever it was, and Walker tries to save it with his super strength, but then he's overwhelmed by the flag smashers, and it's about to fall. Bucky is on the ground beneath it. He can't get up there in time, I guess. And so Sam shows up, full on, obviously, Captain America suit, as he's been in through this whole night, and flies the van to safety, or the armored truck to safety. This is Carly's, actually, it's Carly and John's first time in seeing him don the Captain America suit. John is clearly jealous as a mother, and Carly is taken back a bit, and she actually tries to call him out on it once he's down on the ground, But he tells her he's trying something new. Remember, this is Sam declaring himself Captain America, not the government. It's very different from anybody who's come before him. This is a new thing for Captain America. He is doing it himself, and he's doing it right. They fight, obviously. The fight goes into a nearby warehouse. A lot of empty warehouses in DC these days. Sharon pops up to talk to Carly, confirming then that she's the power broker and that she was the one to discover, I guess you could say, Carly and Madripoor, kind of rescue her and basically set her on this path to being what she is now. When Buttrock overhears this, he confronts both of them, saying that he now wants 4 times payment from Sharon instead of just the double payment he's already getting, now that he knows she's power broker, which I gotta say, this felt a little bit flawed, because how did he not know that? She was the power broker. I guess they're just leaving us to assume that he really is that stupid. She broke him out of jail and has been sending him on these, like, jobs. Like, who else? What? She's stationed in I just can't. He's dumb. And that explains why Sharon seems to very easily kill him. I'm not sure if it was confirmed he was dead. We do see him fall backwards when she shoots him in the chest a bunch of times, so, like, there's no surviving that, but you know how these things are. We did see the body hit the ground, so I don't know, maybe there's like a tiny chance that he might appear in the future. I'm pretty sure he was pretty darn dead there, so whatever. So she shoots Buttrock. Carly almost shoots or kills Sharon, but Sam's able to stop her, and then she and Sam end up facing off until Sharon kills Carly. Somehow, Sam doesn't immediately go, "God damn it, Sharon, I had this handled, you don't have to kill her," or whatever, anybody would have said in that scenario, logically. But I guess he's just too nice for that. They just roll with her, killing people like it's nothing. Nobody questions it. Everybody heads back outside, and the media are standing around with the remaining senators, and there they get their first look at Sam in his new Captain America outfit. Everyone there is a little bit shocked, it seems. But Sam has a thing to say here, folks, so listen the heck up. Sam gives his speech, and it is pretty perfect. I saw a whiny little bitch on Twitter trying to complain about how the writing was from a 12-year-old, but, generally 12-year-olds don't have a solid grasp of the nuances of government, politics, race relations, international relations, or the idea of archetypes being passed down as mantles. But okay, buddy, if that makes you feel better. It was a great, touching, thoughtful scene where Sam basically tells the people in charge to stop ignoring the people that they're meant to represent. We also got to see Isaiah Bradley's reaction to seeing Sam as Captain America on TV, listening to Sam's speech and how he is basically doing what he can here to set the governing forces right. Afterwards, he catches up with Bucky, who makes a joke, something about how he stopped listening after he heard Black Man in Stars and Stripes, which I kind of took as Marvel's slight jab to the people who will complain about them politicizing, quote-unquote politicizing Captain America. I mean, if there's anything this show has taught us, it's that the entire idea of there being a Captain America is extremely political. There was also some government guy then who approaches Sam and it refers to him, he calls him Captain America, and it kind of sets in then how all of this just went down. Sam crowned himself and they accepted it with no questions. I think the one thing that says is how the US government knew they were pulling a shitty move, taking that shield from him, basically lying and giving it to John and naming him Cap, even though everyone knew Steve wanted Sam to be his successor. They knew they were in the wrong for doing that, and they still did it. The remaining Flag Smashers are taken into custody, put in the back of armored vans. As they get closed in, one of the guards whispers to them, "One world, one people," which is their little anthem thing or whatever. So it got me so mad because I didn't want them just getting off scot-free. But then they pull away from the curb and the vans blow up. We get to see that it was Zemo's his elderly little handyman, his little Alfred, who set up the bomb. And we also see Zemo satisfyingly listening to the report of their deaths on his little prison radio. Tying up that loose end beautifully, no more supers hanging around to cause problems, no one sitting in jail to pop out and make a problem with. Except for John Walker. We see his wife and that Contessa, who is Madam Hydra, talking about his bomb, or this bomb news of the Black Panther getting blown up, as they wait for John to finish changing into whatever outfit the Contessa brought for him. She makes a joke to the wife about how, oh, was I involved with that? And obviously she wasn't, but it's she's clearly that kind of woman who's like, she a very good Madam Hydra, I think. When John comes out, he is in his traditional U.S. agent suit from the comics, which is pretty much the same as this last one from the live-action show, but with black instead of blue. And one thing that I find pretty funny is that in the issue that he premieres as U.S. agent, as opposed to his original title of Super Patriot, which is Captain America number 354, he appears on the cover of that issue punching out the title of Captain America and saying, "I'm back," with this wicked grin. It definitely feels like they have set up the perfect launching point to see him appear as U.S. agent later, just like that, which the Contessa refers to him as U.S. agent. She gives him that title, and he happily takes it. He likes it. He thinks it's great. We'll probably see him again on like a Thunderbolts team or something, which Thunderbolts is generally the team of anti-heroes or villains working together. General Ross, who becomes Red Hulk at that point in time in the comics, but was long since become Red Hulk, he usually leads this team, the Thunderbolts, and he's already made that crossover. He was in the Incredible Hulk, and now he's been in the MCU in a couple of things, so odds are he will be connected to that team if we see it in the MCU. I feel like they're kind of giving us these little droppings for little breadcrumbs for the various potential things that they could build this out from to see what we're interested in, but potentially like that's okay. They want them to be this or that. We're going to lean that direction because we know that's kind of how they were doing the show, leaning a certain directions based on the audience because they could edit things, up to the last second because it's digital premiere. You can do that these days. And obviously the other idea besides the Thunderbolts is that he could be on the West Coast Avengers, which is the team that he was on in the comics, but I feel kind of like would be a road way further down the line for him. I think we'll see him dig himself pretty deep in with Madam Hydra before he realizes that he's going to have to dig himself out to officially become a hero. Right now, he thinks that she's saved him. She has saved him and given him a new life as a hero again. He literally says to his wife, "I'm back," and gets all excited when she gives him the title and leaves, and he feels like he's been put back as the starting quarterback on the football team. That's not what this is, my man. She is Madame Hydra. You are going to be seduced by this demoness before you realize what's going on. So yeah, I don't think we're going to see him on West Coast Avengers initially, maybe further down the line, but I think we're going to see him kind of accidentally villaining it up before he realizes that he's not doing what he thought he was doing, for who he thought he was doing it for. And then there is Sharon. So remember, she's a power broker. She's, clearly just different than we think, and I have a theory about that in a second. But what we see about Sharon, what last we see of her in the show, is that in a formal government meeting somewhere, it looks like DC, she is given her full pardon, which is what she, told Sam that she wanted this whole time. She smiles and accepts it graciously right before leaving the room to call her Madripoor team and let them know to line up buyers for the incoming government secrets, weapon codes, weapons themselves, and etc. that she will now have access to. That's gonna be a problem, and I love it. I am so here for evil Sharon, which I have to say, my theory for that is, it was something that we were talking about over the weekend after we watched it for the second time, the episode. We're gonna find out Sharon's a Skrull during or before leading up to Secret Invasion. We already know, obviously, I've talked about it before, Secret Invasion is coming as a show on Disney Plus in a couple of years, potentially. Probably 2023, if I had to guess. I would be willing to bet a lot of money that Sharon is a Skrull right now, and that whatever, she was, whatever it was that we saw her last in the MCU, it was whatever movie, and then she got, how she couldn't come back to the US, so she went to Madripoor. I'm willing to bet that when she arrived in Madripoor, a Skrull grabbed her and replaced her, and she has been the Sharon who is Power Broker has been a Skrull the entire time. I am willing to bet a lot of money on that. Because that's change of personality, just like that. How else are you going to explain that? And there's a few other, characters down the line that you can probably, assume are Skrulls or whatever. But that's a really cool, I definitely think that's what they've set this up for. We're probably going to see her, obviously between now and then in something. So it's really, really exciting to to think about the possibilities of this, just Sharon being this little shit stirrer in the government without them really even knowing it, and B, potentially her being a Skrull too. So that's both really two fun points to think about. Whew, there we go, got it out. I'm not entirely sure when this happened in the episode, but it was towards the end, after everything goes down. Bucky checks in on the older Asian man who was his friend from the first episode, the one who he sort of adopted as his, grandfather when he discovers that was the father of the boy he killed on that mission, which we see that flashback on the first episode, how it was the wrong place, wrong time, but it was the mission, so he had to kill him. He was just in the way, basically. Bucky, at this time at the episode, he returns to the old man's apartment for the first time since that premiere episode and tells him the truth of why he'd been stopping by all this time to keep him company, because his son was killed by the Winter Soldier, and the Winter Soldier was him. He tells him he didn't have a choice and leaves shortly after. It's a really difficult, obviously, scene. It's hard, it's crushing. They don't interact again, but Bucky does pop his head into the window of the tea shop that the older man and him used to meet at and drink their tea together, to check on him. He checks on him, I guess, whatever the day is of the week that they would go to the tea shop together, and he sees that the young woman who works at the tea shop is there caring for him and keeping him company. So now Bucky can move on. He knows the man has someone there to take care of him. The end credits scene was actually two different scenes, kind of. In the first section, it was Sam going back to Isaiah Bradley's house. He's there with, Isaiah's there with his son, grandson, unsure. I don't think we got that clarified. Neighborhood kid, I don't know. If he is blood relative of him, his, progeny, then this kid is going to have the super serum probably passed down to him in some sense. Which sets this up even better, because we get to see a lot more of him here in this episode all of a sudden. And I think all of this is leading up to them teasing him for being Patriot in the Young Avengers movie, which everybody has been saying for a long time is most definitely coming. To further back my point, Sam takes the kid with them on this trip when he takes Isaiah to see the surprise he has for him. The kid is really not relevant to Sam, so why would he do that? Except suddenly he's relevant, and I think there's a reason they're making him relevant, because they want you to remember him when he comes back as Patriot. It's really easy to figure out what's going to happen, what Sam's doing here as the scene goes on, and oh my lord, it was moving. He takes them to the Captain America Museum in DC, which is stuff we've all seen before. But then he turns a corner into a new part of the display where there stands a bronze statue of Isaiah Bradley in his dress blues alongside a display of photos and an inscribed pillar of his time in the military serving for Americans who never even knew he existed. Until now. As Sam says, Now they know they won't be able to just wipe him away. I can't stop thinking about what a profound moment that would be, to spend your entire life, almost your entire life, the better part of a full century, honestly, at this point, with this weight, this burden of what he went through, what they did to him, and how they treated him for it after. Everything he lost, everything that he had surely long ago written off as something that he'd die with on his chest, weighing him down. With this display, he's able to understand that the people of the U.S. will know him now. It won't change the awfulness of what they did to him and how it affected his whole life. But he no longer suffers in silence, without a name or even a whisper of his sacrifice. As far as accountability goes, this isn't really much at all, if it's true, not at all. But before, there was less than nothing. He didn't exist, never had. Now he has a legacy, one that I have no doubt this young man next to him has been greatly, greatly inspired by. And, me being as I've said before, descendant of Europeans, white woman, I am moved this much by this scene. Can you even imagine somebody like Isaiah Bradley's grandson here, if that's what he is, watching this at home, seeing the Black Captain America for the first time, seeing the arc of him going through this, the positives, the negatives, the history, the struggle, it's not an easy stuff to talk about, but it's real. It's stuff that that people like them go through every day. If I am moved by this scene and this moment and this arc of Sam becoming Captain America and Isaiah Bradley getting, in the smallest sense here, his dues with this display in the museum, in the tiniest little sense, he gets something in return. If I am moved this much by it, imagine how somebody who is like Isaiah Bradley's grandson watching this must feel, seeing this represented for them on the screen. That is, I think, brilliant. The second part of the scene, of the end credits scene here, takes place back in New Orleans, where Sam and Bucky attend a neighborhood kind of block party with his sister and her kids, because obviously he's Captain America. Everyone is having a really great time. It's a fun little scene. Not really anything is said, I don't think, but it isn't needed. All of the primarily black folks from their neighborhood are there, thrilled to take pictures with Sam. Clearly everyone is having a fantastic time and is so proud to have Sam as their Captain America, a Captain America who represents them. Remember, Sam is also the first, of the two. He's the first Captain America, the first real Captain America who does not have a superhero identity. Everybody knows that he's Sam Wilson. Everybody knows his history. He was Falcon. He was an Avenger, blah, blah, blah. He's never had a secret identity. Steve Rogers had a secret identity even through to the end. It's kind of a big deal that he is this. And as Sam said in his speech earlier, he's a Captain America without blonde hair, blue eyes, or super serum. He's a new breed of Captain America, one that stands for all people. It's a big deal. So seeing them all there, it makes perfect sense. Seeing the neighborhood, having such a great time. It's a great little wrap up to this whole story that we've seen playing through so far. And the show ends with Sam and Bucky standing off, staring into the distance, together, and the title credits roll as it says Captain America and the Winter Soldier. Oh, so satisfying. And announced Friday, of course, we are getting a fourth Captain America movie written by the showrunners of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Clearly, they have earned their stay easily with this show. They have clearly impressed Marvel Disney with this show and the way the Russo brothers did with the Captain America movies, which landed them their Infinity Saga movies. So excited to see what they're able to do with a feature-length film. I was among the crowd, I guess, who didn't see a fourth Captain America movie coming. I guess some people kind of knew that was going to happen, and I figured no. I guess I figured if they did the trilogy now, even if Sam became Cap, which now he is, obviously, we'd see him in team movies or, you know, this show or ones like it. But I guess this makes sense to make sure that he's at the same level of accessibility to viewers that Steve was, as well as the same amount of importance to them shown to be. No doubt Bucky will be in that movie as well, and there will also be a second season of this show, no doubt called Captain America and the Winter Soldier, or perhaps Captain America and Bucky, or whatever other title he might take up, because he's kind of moving away from that Winter Soldier persona, the way that Sam is moving forward into the Captain America persona. So, really curious to hear that announcement, if they're going to have it be Captain America and the Winter Soldier or Captain America and Bucky. The end credits did roll as Captain America and the Winter Soldier, so that's probably the best bet there. If Bucky shows up in the next Captain America movie, which I have no doubt that he will, that's probably gonna, maybe they're gonna call it Captain America and Bucky or something like that. We already had a Winter Soldier movie, so they're not gonna call it Winter Soldier or anything like that. But it's going to be focused on Sam, 100%. Bucky being in it is going to be a backup figure. It's going to be Sam's movie. Captain America, I don't know. I'm not really sure. I'm not familiar with Sam's villains in the comics. There are other villains that we could see brought back from, you know, having been sprinkled through MCU history here so far. So who knows? It's exciting to think about. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they end up doing with it. Overall, I love this finale and show, but the character of Carly was just such a waste. They just needed somebody, I don't think it mattered who, for these guys, by these guys I mean John, Bucky, and Sam, to end up teaming up to fight against. So she just ended up being kind of a symbol for the people who fall through the cracks of the system, and spend their whole lives feeling like they're screaming into a black hole. She represents that, but to no real point. You just acknowledge that that's what she was, and then it moves on. What else is there to do? She didn't really change anything. That was Sam's speech. She died by then, and they were still going to go on and do what they were going to do at that point. So really, they kind of refrigerated her, if you're going by the definition of women in refrigerators being killing off a female character for the benefit and or growth of a male character. She was 100% killed so Sam could have that speech in that moment, which obviously was a great moment, but they refrigerated her, for sure. That was my main complaint. I was gonna say first it's a small complaint, but really it's not. It's a big-ass complaint, because she was the main villain of the show, and she just kind of ended up being pointless. She literally did not have a point in the end. That's not really cool at all. I don't like that. But what are you gonna do? Hopefully... like what my husband's theory is that they had the speech planned when they started the show, and they needed to build around that, and that's how she came into being. There's also the fact that the show was originally supposed to be about something completely different. It was obviously the displaced people, yes, but back before COVID hit, this show was the plot of this whole thing was going to be during the 5-year period that people were gone. There was a pandemic. It was something like that. There was a pandemic, and then when people came back, they ran out of the inoculations, why is that the word that comes to my head first? The vaccine. They run out of vaccines because now they have double the population to get vaccines to, and then that was going to be the whole thing about what Carly was doing, is trying to get vaccines to the people who were there and who were kicked out of their homes and who are now refugees and stuff like that. So then COVID strikes, big meeting at Disney, and they decide obviously people are not probably gonna want to watch a pandemic on TV when they're going through one still a little bit. So they changed that for kind of good reasons. But then it kind of just piddled off into being a little bit wishy-washy with the Flag Smashers. As many people were saying, nobody was really sure throughout the season. Well, a lot of fans and a lot of viewers weren't really sure throughout the season if we were supposed to be rooting for them or rooting for them to lose. Weren't really sure if we were supposed to hate them or like them or what. It was kind of like this big up and down, loosely defined, they're terrorists, but they're good, but they kill people, but they're terrorists, but they're good. It was could have been done a little better. Obviously, the character of Carly being completely refrigerated at the end there was a bit but you know, what you gonna do about it? Overall, I really, really love this show. I'm like I said, superbly excited to see Captain America Sam in literally whatever he shows up in next. And I'm also superbly excited to see Sharon just completely mess things up. It's gonna be fun. Next up, we're gonna discuss Mortal Kombat, the movie, the new one. I never saw the old one. It's on HBO. I think it's in theaters. I don't really know. I don't really care because I watched it on HBO. As I've said before, if you couldn't figure that out, I've never really played the game. I never have, and I'm only loosely familiar with the story and its characters. I think I've probably seen like GIFs of clips up from the game before or something. I'm sure I've seen that, but I wanted to talk about this movie just because it's like, you know, it's a cool, fun, nerdy thing that's really honestly enjoyable and fun to watch and discuss, so why not? Why the heck not? And I did have a ton of fun with this, even if I knew so little going into it that my husband actually laughed at me when I asked if it was going to be violent. It's not my fault that our parents didn't let us play video games growing up. My mom would have disowned me if she ever caught me playing a game called Mortal Kombat, and yes, I do not understand, or I do now understand how I should have known that something called Mortal Kombat would be ridiculously brutal. I do play some video games, mostly just Horizon Zero Dawn, to be honest. There's that really dumb Adventure Time game, that I got stuck playing in one day for like 12 hours on my day off, and I kind of just like went into a fugue state and forgot about time and lunch and things, so that'll happen sometimes, very rarely, but other than that, it's mostly just Horizon Zero Dawn. I got a lot of insight about this movie going into it with my husband filling me in, which helped for context a little bit, but overall I think the movie would have been perfectly understandable without his help for context. I think they did a pretty good job of explaining things, just trying to forget what he said and look at it as what it was. We start off with Hanzo Hasashi, who is played by Hiroyuki Sanada, who is almost always the wise Asian man in things. You've definitely seen him in at least one thing before. He's been in a lot of stuff. Here in the movie, he has a wife and a child and a newborn baby. He goes off to gather goods or something, I don't know, and when he's gone, Baihan, who is Sub-Zero later, he shows up to kill Hanzo's wife and firstborn. Hanzo comes back and sees that they're dead, and he iced them. And they end up fighting, I thought that was funny, he iced them. They end up fighting, and Baihan kills Hanzo, who was the original Scorpion here. So we see, then after all this goes down, Lord Raiden, who is this Thunder God guy, who's pretty cool, he takes the baby that the mother hid and brings it to safety. So then the story picks up in modern day with obviously we're supposed to know this is the descendant of that, of Hanzo and that baby, working as a fighter, it seems, in like a fight club kind of thing. I'm not really sure. It's just a fun MMA thing. He has a dragon birthmark and a wife and a tweeny daughter. His name is Cole Young. He meets a dude called Jax, who is played by Mehcad Brooks, who you might know from Supergirl or a few other things. He learns that there is someone out there hunting people down with that mark, the dragon birthmark thing that he always assumed was a birthmark. The mark ends up being marking you as a champion of Earth. he learns about Mortal Kombat, which is a fight between worlds and the champions of those worlds. And they're being hunted because the ruler of this other world, who is Chi Han, the actor is Chi Han, and he is playing the character Shang Tsung, who is, I find out later, he is the Soul Sucker, and he wants to take out Earth's champions before they have a chance to battle, basically trying to cheat his way to the top. So that's the plot at this point, basically. Jax, Cole, this woman who is Sonya Blade, and this really, really annoying guy, Kano, they all end up fighting, or, from the start, they're going to fight Shang Tsung's fighters. At one point, predictably, Kano betrays the rest of the team, and Sonya eventually gets to kill him, which was awesome because he was awful, taking out his dragon mark for herself, because that's how, if you kill somebody with a dragon mark, you kill a champion, you become the next champion, right? Okay, so awesome, she gets the dragon mark. Nice, good for her. It is a completely brutal movie. And so here's a list, as I remember, of some of the most memorable brutalities. You have, towards the beginning, Jax getting his arms frozen and then ripped off by, Bifrost? No, Sub-Zero. Bifrost. The winged demon lady gets sawed in half, which is you see her sawed in half from head down. The guy who did that to her then later on gets his soul sucked out very slowly and painfully. Melina, who is a character working for Soul Sucker Man, she gets a hole basically punched in through her midsection so that we see her spine. The four-armed guy, whose name is apparently Goro, he gets brutalized by Cole. His arm gets chopped off by a scorpion Cole, and he slices him up and his guts spill out onto the dirt. Kano gets a lawn gnome through the eye, which again was very satisfying. Sub-Zero, obviously, as I said, freezes Scorpion's wife and child to death in the beginning of the movie, which is pretty brutal, pretty gruesome. And then Kano, earlier on, he ripped the heart out of one of the other champions. And finally, at the end of the movie, Scorpion frying Sub-Zero, and killing him, and winning, I guess. Because yes, the movie actually does get to end with the two characters it started with thousands of years ago. Actor Joe Taslim is playing Sub-Zero. He was in Warrior, which is a show that you can find on HBO Max. It's a really good show. It's based off of something that Bruce Lee wanted to make while he was still alive. He never had a chance to do that, and so now it is his daughter and I believe his wife who put this show together based on what he wanted it to be. It's about late 19th century San Francisco, Asian immigrants who come and basically just trying to live their life here among the racist early Americans. But anyway, back to what I was talking about. Joe Taslim, who is on that Warrior show, he plays Sub-Zero, and he fights against the original Scorpion, and it was really, really cool here in the final scene, speaking their native tongues. That's something else that I took away from this movie. How the first 10 minutes or something, all you hear is them speaking their native languages, which is awesome. Seeing these Chinese cultures, or seeing these Asian cultures, it's not just Chinese, handled, at all better than they have been in the past. It's such a relief. And with Shang Chi coming up in September, it's all, yes, we're loving this. In the end of the movie, after his ancestor Scorpion beats Sub-Zero for him, Cole is able to save his family, and forces the god of the other, or I guess the king of the other empire, Shang Tsung, to retreat. There's a lot of talk about this being made into a saga of movies, and I'd be pretty down for that. It was surprisingly enjoyable. And it was really genuinely fun to hear from my husband the things that were taken directly from the game or inspired by it, because he is a nerd about the game, and I can appreciate the filmmakers having taken that time to add those little accuracies and little accurate moments for fans like him to get a little bit of extra something out of the movie in exchange for whatever may have been lacking. So I really enjoyed it. Brutally violent, a little bit ridiculous, obviously, because it's based off a friggin' video game about killing people. What are you gonna expect? But it was better than I thought it was gonna be, and I had a fun time watching it. So it was that's all you need to know, I think. Just don't watch it if you're squeamish. Also, this weekend, we binge watched Invincible, which is on Amazon. Screw you, Jeff Bezos, I hate you. I've never read the comic, but I've kind of seen it around, I guess, and based on those minor things that I've seen, I am pretty impressed with how exact the animation has captured the main character designs and things, at least. I'm not sure how much wiggle room they use, because again, I did not read the comic. It was created by writer Robert Kirkman and artist Cory Walker. I don't know anything about it, so I'll tell you what I know about the show. The show follows Mark Grayson, who is a teenager whose dad is a superhero from another planet, and he inherits those powers. And I actually am not going to spoil it here, because the first season is only going to be 8 episodes. The first 7 are already out. I think they released the first 5 in one chunk. So they really weren't planning on having this be a long premiering first season. So it hasn't been that long. I'm not going to spoil it because there is a lot that can be spoiled. These episodes come up on Fridays, so they only just had episode 7 premiere this past Friday anyway. And the final episode of the season will be on this coming Friday. So it was really easy for me to binge watch yesterday while doing some personal project things around this place. So there's only going to be, like I said, the 8 episodes in the first season. So I guess maybe I will watch the 8th episode Friday and spoil it on next Monday, because we also have Falcon and the Winter Soldier behind the scenes this Friday, which I can also talk about on Monday, but that's, only going to be so much to talk about. But I will be doing that, I guess. I will spoiler talk about Invincible on Monday, so to give you some time to check it out if you would like to do that. But I definitely recommend checking it out. That being said, once again, do not check this out if you are squeamish. If you wouldn't watch Mortal Kombat, don't watch Invincible. It's surprisingly violent. I did not obviously know that going into it, because I didn't know anything about it besides just what the covers look like. But it's not at all similar to The Boys. I thought maybe it was going to be along that same kind of, page, but it's totally different concepts here. It is really enjoyable, and it does have a star-studded voice cast, which every time when a new one comes on that you recognize, it's fun to obviously recognize that. So just a few of the names of the main characters we have is Steven Yeun, Sandra Oh, J.K. Simmons, Zazie Beetz, Jillian Jacobs, Zachary Quinto, and Jason Mantzoukas. Smaller roles, off and on roles by Clancy Brown, Mark Hamill, Mahershala Ali, John Hamm, Seth Rogen, and more. Whew, that is a lot of expensive people to put on your voice cast. But again, it's Amazon. They're sucking up Jeff Bezos' money, so let them do it. It's good. I was kind of hesitant to watch it. My husband kept asking if we could watch it because he heard it was good, and I was like, I don't know. It's animated superhero show on Amazon that could go, any direction, and a lot of directions I don't want to witness. But it ended up being a really, really good gamble of a watch. So excited to see the finale on Friday and then discuss it with spoilers on Monday, which will be, I think is going to be in June on Monday. Yep, June 3rd will be next Monday. And this Friday, if you're going to watch the finale, is going to be on the 30th. So make sure you check that out. It's Amazon, so it's streaming. I imagine it'll be up bright and early in the morning. Now, I just wanted to briefly mention, as I've been thinking about Shang Chi coming out a lot, because it's coming out in September, and this seems so far away, but I've been thinking about it a lot after that first teaser trailer that we saw, and because also they have action figures already out. Let me just grab my Katy action figure here. So with the little bit, I want to talk a little bit about Katy. So far, with what little insight that we've had, we have been entirely led to believe Awkwafina's Katy is going to be a sidekick buddy companion, comic relief character, potentially not much else, just kind of moral supporting Shang-Chi more than anything. But the actual facts are starting to say otherwise. Now, I have here in front of me Katy's Marvel Legend, because that's out already. It's a Target exclusive. I don't know how easy it is to find. We ordered it as soon as it came online, so that's how we got ours. But she'll be at Target if you wanted to go out and find her in the wild. But the thing about this Marvel Legend figure here, I'm going to post a review on it later today on my YouTube page, so check that out if you're a fan of those types of things. I have not taken her out of the box yet because of that. But what's interesting about it is she is wearing this traditional-looking red robe with the floral design on it, and comes with a bow and arrow set and the whole archer pack of tools, basically, and some kind of, I don't know, odd headless winged floof creature. You can look up pictures of it online. I don't know what it's called. There's no name. It doesn't say anything on the box about it. It's just kind of in there with her, and there is no explanation. I can assume that it might be something that appears in the scene from the teaser. If you can see the brief, what might be flashbacks, to where there are, like, winged lions and things. We could possibly assume that's where we see it in the movie. But anyway, based on all of this, for the Marvel Legend figure, which it also has the photos of Awkwafina wearing that robe, as I guess from the movie, I'm gonna bet all kinds of money that Katy is not all that she seems on the surface. Whether it's going to be that she's undercover, that she, you know, quote, wakes up to who she truly is, or whether she turns out to be some kind of, like, hidden spirit or goddess figure, there is definitely more to Katy than the first trailer showed, and I cannot wait to find out what that is. September seems so far away. I can't wait to open this action figure later and talk about it on my YouTube page, so make sure you check that out. If it's not up today, it'll be up tomorrow, because internet problems sometimes. That's life. The other thing about Shang-Chi I wanted to talk about, when my husband was at Target picking up Katy yesterday, which was Sunday, he also grabbed I was going to say child's toy, but they're really all child's toys, so, I'll just say kitty toy. That will differentiate it. He grabbed a kitty toy of, I guess a dragon serpent-looking creature that's apparently supposed to be from the movie. On the box, it calls it just the Great Protector, no other names. And I have to wonder if this is going to be Fin Fang Foom. Fin Fang Foom is a dragon from the comics who is sometimes a villain, sometimes not. I think he most recently appeared in Beta Ray Bill number 1, attacking Asgard as he was infected with the Null symbiotes. But he obviously hasn't appeared in the movies yet. But that's what Fin Fang Foom is. They likely wouldn't want to give him away on the marketing product, so that could potentially explain the weird name. Or this could be how like how Shang-Chi's father, his father in the comics was Fu Manchu originally, because, you know, casual racism against Asians was okay and mostly popular in media until, like, now, I guess. But they changed his name for the movie, making him the Mandarin, so kind of just snipping around that racist background, semi-racist background, Fu Manchu, and changing it to be the Mandarin. So they could be doing the same thing with the dragon Fin Fang Foom, giving him a bit of a refresh as to remove as much of that light racism as possible. It also, not noteworthy, but just something kind of funny and coincidental. It also looks hilariously like Sisu, who is the dragon from Raya and the Last Dragon, which is funny because Sisu was voiced by Awkwafina, who then Awkwafina is playing Katy in this. So, it's, you know, small world, whatever. Alright, now finally we're going to go ahead and do the comic book poll list for this week. I had to get all of that other stuff out of the way first because I like to be categorical about things. That sounds good, right? Okay, we'll go with that. This week we do have some really cool stuff, and at the end of this week's pull list, I am going to, I have a little reminder about something that you might be able to get that is potentially going to end up being very valuable, so stick around for that, and you'll see how you might be able to get that. But anyway, I have a couple of spotlights on things for the creators and the characters. I have a few things that are women written by women once again, and then I have a few other things as well, and then we'll go into the rest of the pull list. It's not super long this week, so this shouldn't take too long, but we're going to start off with Black Widow number 6, which is, of course, about Natasha Romanoff's Black Widow, and is written by Kelly Thompson. The art this week is actually by guest artist Rafael De La Torre, with colorist Jordi Belair as usual. Normally we have Elena Casagrande as art, and she will be on issue number 7 once again. This is just a 1-issue break to give her a little bit of a breather time. This issue is starring Natasha on a new story arc with new characters, new villains, and a new costume. At the end of the last issue, we were able to see her nice new black costume with a hood. I think she's keeping her half-shaved, or at least partially shaved, haircut. And then there's some cool red tubing, I guess you could say, around her outfit that reminds me a little bit of on-screen outfits that we've seen. Actually, the design of the hood reminds me of Rogue's original outfit, if you're familiar with that, her first appearance look. So this is a new age for Natasha Romanoff's Black Widow, so it'll be very fun to read that, and this is probably going to be a good jumping on point as well, since it is the start of a new story arc. And it will be taking place in San Francisco, which I love because, as I've said many times before, I did live in San Francisco for several years while I was in college, and I do love that city to death. So I love seeing it appear in things. For some reason, it's not as popular as places like New York to appear in media, but I'm happy to get it where I can. So Black Widow number 6 is bound to be great. Kelly Thompson has been killing it with the series so far, and I hope to see it continue just as well into the future. Harley Quinn number 2 is, of course, about Harley Quinn, with writer Stephanie Phillips and artist Riley Rossmo on board. Stephanie Phillips also writes Nuclear Family, which is coming out with its 3rd issue this week. And this issue of Harley Quinn, the 2nd issue, is going to have Harley Quinn and her new sidekick Kevin versus Hugo Strange. Hugo Strange is, of course, a psychiatrist who is like, he's got issues. He's obsessed with, heroes and villains and stuff, and he's got issues. But I really enjoyed the first issue of Harley Quinn by Stephanie Phillips. She seems to have an excellent grasp of the character, and is able to write her in a really good balance of using the kookiness versus using solid, real writing. She seems to balance that really, really well, where in the past it's been leaning kind of too hard on the kooky. Well, obviously that's what the character is, of course, but it's not all she is. She's not Deadpool, and Deadpool's not even like that. But anyway, I normally have first issues of Harley Quinn series. I kind of am like, yeah, it was okay. This one did not feel that way about. I felt very firmly this was very good, and I'm excited for the rest of the series. So happy to be able to say that about that series. Silk number 2, of course, stars Cindy Moon's Silk, and is written by author Maureen Gu with writer Takeshi Miyazawa and colorist Ian Herring. I was very impressed with the first issue of Silk, just like I was with the first issue of Harley Quinn. And it's, again, a big relief to be able to very firmly and confidently say how much I liked these premiere issues of the series. So this is, I think, the 3rd Silk series that is hopefully ongoing this time. And it's off to a fantastic start. We have this, I can't remember what it was actually called, but it's like a werewolf cat monster thing. And I guess in this issue, it's going to be killing low-level criminals that Cindy is going to have to come in and protect. Cindy is also the new protection force, basically, for J. Jonah Jameson, who she works for at this online, I believe, news blog. Very, very modern, very up with the times, very not like J. Jonah Jameson, but I think that's kind of why he's trying to do it, because he knows he's an old fart. And now he's gotten onto the wrong people's, shit list, so that's why he has had Silk hired, more or less, to protect him, while he doesn't know that Cindy, who is Silk, is working for him, so her schedule just got really busy. I'm so loving seeing this series. I hope people are enjoying it as much as I am, because it is so nice. It is so good. If you aren't familiar with Silk, this is a good enough starting point with issue 1. And it's only going into issue 2 this week, so pick up both copies. I promise you will enjoy it. New Mutants, excuse me, New Mutants number 17 comes out this week, written by Vida Ayala with artist Rod Reese. Vida Ayala is an Afro-Latinx non-binary writer who is seen all over comics, especially recently, and who is writing the new Static Shock series for the DC Milestone imprint, which is going to start in July. Vida is one of the probably 5 or 6 writers at comics, comic book writers who I pretty much consistently can pick up anything that they've written or anything new that they've written, and I will almost always enjoy the heck out of it. There's a few other writers on that list with them, but Vida is definitely on that list as well. And in the New Mutants series recently, we have been having Danny and Karma on one side of things. They are in Otherworld, searching for a lost mutant team. Now, if you remember, if they were to die in Otherworld, they can get resurrected still in the resurrection protocols, but they come back very differently if they died in Otherworld. Just how it is. They can't really do anything about that, so that's why there's a lot of danger for this mutant teen. There's also danger for them. I don't think they would actually do that to one of the New Mutants members. Maybe somebody who we're less familiar with, like one of these younger New Mutants, like this lost teenager. But we'll see. They've already had a couple of mutants resurrected from Otherworld, so we don't really need to see that another example of that. Just the threat, I think, is enough to have that threat there. And then meanwhile on Krakoa, we have Shadow King basically grooming the youngest of the New Mutants, which is kind of problematic. Vita definitely means it to look how creepy it looks. That's definitely on purpose. And it's kind of disturbing how easily he was able to convince them he was on their side. And they just are keeping that secret because he asked. It's a dangerous world out there, guys, and it's only getting worse every day. And also it seems that we're going to have another storyline with Magic having a big role in this issue. She's kind of the drill sergeant of the New Mutants, younger and older. So it's been really fun to have her stomping around, bossing people around in this series, and I'm looking forward to seeing her a lot more in this week's issue. Finally, for the spotlights, Bitterroot number 12 is a fantastic series following a family of monster hunters in the Harlem Renaissance. Really fun. It's by Chuck Brown, David F. Walker, and artist Sanford Green. Sanford Green you can see around a couple of different things that he's done art for. I am so lucky to have a print by him. He did connecting covers. I believe it was 4 or 5 connecting covers for Black Panther series in the past couple of years, and he made that into a gorgeous long print. And I am so lucky to have that signed by him. $20 too. Great deal. Really high quality print, and it was signed. Wow. From a con, that was low con prices. Fantastic guy. I'll just read you the solicitation for this issue because I actually haven't read number 11. It went on a very long break, and I have to refresh what happened in 10 because I don't really remember before I read 11. So I'm a little bit behind, but Bitterroot is still such a fantastic series that even though I am a little bit behind, it's worth talking about like this. So the solicitation just says, Legacy, Part 2. Colin and Ford, who are 2 of the boys in the monster hunting family, are in a fight to stay alive while Ma Etta, who is, I believe, their grandmother, she's the matriarch, makes a decision that will impact the entire Sangre family. And the Sangres are the monster hunter family in this Harlem Renaissance era. Meanwhile, Enoch, who I think is one of the cousins, he's like, he says a lot of big words. He makes an important discovery, but will he live long enough to tell anyone? It always seems like there's somebody with their life on the lines in this, but that's how we make stories interesting. And this is all family, so it makes things a little bit more complicated when you're fighting with family. Bitterroot has had a lot of really really wonderful issues. They're only on number 12, so it's really not that much to catch up on, and it's only been 2 collected editions, so it's also pretty easy to find out there if you want to catch up, and I definitely recommend you do. For the regular pull list, we'll kind of go quickly through the last of these few things. Beta Ray Bill number 2, as I've said before, the first issue was surprising to me, but in the absolute best way that it could have been. It was it's written and drawn by Daniel Warren Johnson, who is known for his kind of heavy metal hardcore writing, and so I picked it up expecting the entire issue to be that. First few pages definitely were, and then we get punched in the soul, and then the rest of it is like a really heartfelt, oh my god, Beta Ray Bill, give me a hug, oh my god, buddy, it's okay, you're not ugly, I love you. Just a bit, not an emotional roller coaster, but it was like, you're sitting here listening to this metal song, and then all of a sudden they pull on your hair and make you cry with emotions. I'll read the solicitation for this. It says, Bill goes hunting for Odin, still desperate to resurrect his lost hammer, Stormbreaker. But the former king of Asgard is far from his glory days. Stormbreaker is never coming back, but there is one place where Beta Ray Bill could restore his full powers. The Allfather of Nothing offers the Corbinite a path to immortality, at a price not even a god can afford. Whatever any of that means, we'll see, I guess, in this issue. Odin is basically just a pointless character in the Marvel Universe right now. And Bill's problem is basically he can't transform out of his Beta Ray Bill form into his Corbinite, which is his more human form, which, causes problems with his love life and things, which was that punch to the gut you didn't see coming in the first issue. And Stormbreaker, when he put Stormbreaker down, he would transform out of his Beta Ray Bill form into his Corbinite form, but now he does not have Stormbreaker, and he seems to be stuck as Beta Ray Bill. So trying to figure out how to live with that, deal with that, solve that, whatever it may be. We'll see that in issue 2 here this week. As I mentioned before, Nuclear Family number 3 is by Stephanie Phillips. She is also writing Harley Quinn coming out this week. It is based off of Philip K. Dick's short story Breakfast at Twilight. A little bit trippy, so if you're into that, definitely check it out. One thing I find very interesting is the artist does the art similarly to what you would have found in advertisements of the era. How they used to draw advertisements as opposed to use photographs. The art looks like it is drawn advertisements. I think it's really interesting that they chose to go that route. To have art that is somewhat inspired by the time period that the story takes place in. We also have Batman Black and White number 5 coming out this week, which I have to start off by saying it comes with a Jenny Frison variant edition, so make sure you pick that up because I would love to continue seeing her get more variant covers for everybody all time, always. This is an anthology series, of course, like I've said before. The creators on the anthology stories for this issue we have Mariko Tamaki working with artist Emanuela Lupacchino, Jorge Jimenez writes and draws, Jamal Campbell writes and draws, Kieran Gillan and Jamie Mckelvie team up again, and Lee Weeks writes and draws. All very great teams. Mariko Tamaki is working on Detective Comics right now for DC, which also comes out this week if you are interested in that, but I'm not going to talk about it anymore because I don't know anything about it. And Emanuela Lupacchino is just beautiful artist. Jorge Jimenez is most recently seen on Batman, I believe. I'm very curious to see what his story will be, what he'll write about. Jamal Campbell is... he, I believe, co-designed Naomi, and he is currently doing the art for Far Sector. If you're familiar with that, he is writing and drawing, as I said, for this anthology issue. Kieran Gillan and Jamie McKelvie's team up again was, it's in reference to their Wicked and the Divine run, which was obviously phenomenal. I believe it was like 45 issues or something like that. Really, really great fantasy series, mythology fantasy series, kind of. It'd be fun to see the two of them on a story again here in this anthology. And then Lee Weeks is apparently he's writing and drawing about Jim Gordon. So that's a couple of kind of fun anthology short stories that we'll be seeing this week in Batman Black and White number 5. Cable number 10, I'm really sad this series is ending. I'm going to keep saying that all the way through it ending. He's still searching for what's up with the missing mutant babies and what that has to do with Strife and what he wants to do with the babies, etc. Phil Noto, I really, really hope that he gets to start some interiors somewhere else in the X-Men books, because I'm gonna miss seeing his interiors when this series ends. It's beautiful. Gary Duggan is the writer of Cable, and obviously we're gonna see him in the X-Men series that starts in July. And I'm still gonna miss this series. It's been issue after issue, stupendous fun, and I'm sad that it's ending, but happy to read what we have left. Spawn number 317, I am not really an active Spawn reader, but I'm mentioning it because it's I believe, the first appearance of the Chain Gang, or at least it's an appearance of the Chain Gang. The members of that are going to be Spawn, She-Spawn, Reaper, Gunslinger, and Redeemer. And it says, Spawn comes to terms with his new allies as well as new threats. So I guess we're gonna see that. I'm interested in the character of She-Spawn, as Todd McFarlane is opening up this kind of Spawn universe that he announced a few months ago. I'm interested in seeing her story continue and what possibly they might be doing with her in the future. So that's why I will potentially be picking this issue up this week. And finally, to wrap up the pull list, as I said, there is a potentially valuable comic coming out this week that you may be able to get. I'll talk about that now. It's in regards to Berserker number 2, but it is not Berserker number 2 itself. If you bought the foil edition of Berserker number 1, it came with a little proof of purchase card on the inside with some instructions. Bring that card back to where you bought that comic, Berserker number 1, and buy issue number 2 this week. You will get a free copy of Something is Killing the Children number 1, 8th printing, which is a surprise special variant. Now, this is relevant because Something is Killing the Children number 1 is very expensive, as the series is apparently moving to production soon. It's going to be made, I believe, into a TV series. And this is the 8th printing, which says a lot about how much demand there's been for this first issue. The fact that it's a special surprise variant only adds to how valuable this issue is probably going to be. Now, another thing to remember here is comic shops are only going to get one copy of that 8th printing of Something is Killing the Children for every 2 copies ordered of Berserker number 2. So, if number 1 of Berserker did not sell well for them, they probably ordered a lot less of issue number 2, and therefore will be very low on those 8th printings of Something is Killing the Children number 1. So, if you have that foil edition of Berserker number 1 with that little instruction card, a proof of purchase on the inside, make sure you don't putz around if you want that 8th printing of Something is Killing the Children number 1. It's very possible there's going to be not a whole lot of those out there because they have to order 2 comics of Berserker number 2 to get a single copy of this 8th printing. So it's very potential that there's not going to be a whole lot of these comics around, and the ones that are going to be going out the door probably as soon as the shops open in the morning, because the people who probably are going to be going back and exchanging those proof of purchase cards for that comic are probably going to be people who are pretty sweaty for this kind of stuff and are going to be looking forward to adding that to their collection. So if you do have that, don't forget on Wednesday. This Wednesday is the 28th. Make sure you get to wherever you purchased it from to get your copy of Something is Killing the Children, number 1, 8th printing. That is bound to be a valuable little bit of comic history, so go ahead and make sure you do that. To wrap up this week's a little bit long podcast episode, 15A, I'm going to go over the DC and Marvel July solicitations. This is not everything that's coming out. There's a lot of series that are just going to kind of continue going on. This is just new stuff, ending stuff, and otherwise somewhat relevant because of whatever reason stuff. So for DC, notably we have Superman, Son of Kal-El number 1. This is going to be a story about John Kent, notably not Clark Kent, not Kal-El. So this is a John Kent Superman ongoing series. For Clark Kent, we have Superman and the Authority #1, which is a 6-issue series, which is going to be by Grant Morrison with art by Mckelvie, which is two fantastic creators in the comics industry. Grant Morrison is, of course, a complete legend, and it's really exciting to see them going on to this Superman book. They've written some excellent ones in the past, and so it's no doubt this will be just as good. Static Season 1 #1 is, as I said before, a story by Vita Ayala. They will be writing this under DC's Milestone imprint. It is the first comic under the return of the Milestone imprint, which is, I believe, a mostly black superhero universe. I'm not really sure how it all connects. I'm going to have to do a little bit more research on it before that comes out, because I love Vita Ayala's writing, so I will definitely be checking out Static Season 1 #1. Also coming from Milestone, DC's imprint Milestone, is Icon and Rocket Season 1 #1, which is another duo of black superheroes. It's going to be another fun one to check out if you are interested in those characters at all. Suicide Squad Get Joker is one that I'm very excited about. It is a DC Black Label series. It is going to be in the Prestige format, so it's going to be magazine-size format. And it is a story by Brian Azzarello with art by Alex Maleev and colors by Matt Hollingsworth. This is really cool because Brian Azzarello is a top-tier comic book writer, both in indie comics as well as superhero comics. So really exciting to see him doing a Black Label series here. I'm sure he has some excellent stuff planned out. And Alex Maleev is, of course, a fantastic, non-traditional, I suppose you would say, artist. I think very popularly had a Daredevil run with Brian Michael Bendis back in, like, the early 2000s, possibly it was, I'm not sure. But it was a fantastic Daredevil run, and his art is just stunning, so I can only imagine what he and Brian Azzarello have put together for this 3-issue DC Black Label series, Suicide Squad Get Joker #1. We already know about the Batman Catwoman special #1. It's going to be filling in a past interaction between Bruce and Selina as children. And then we have Blue and Gold #1, which I just thought was kind of funny because it's about Booster Gold and Blue Beetle and their friendship. It's going to be by Dan Jurgens. Then we have Unearthed, a Jessica Cruz story. It is a graphic novel by Lilian Rivera with art by Steph C. I don't know why it just says Steph C. It's all I can find on her. But if you're a fan, like I am, of Jessica Cruz, I will probably be picking that up, and so should you. We also have Green Lantern #4, which is going to be featuring Joe Mullen as one of the new Lanterns on Oa. Really excited to see her integrated into the DC universe, and by July, that series of hers, which is Far Sector, will be finished, so we'll be able to see accurately, time-wise, what happens after Far Sector is over. And finally, for the DC side, we have The Other History of the DC Universe #5, which is going to be focusing, on character Anissa Pierce, who is Black Lightning's oldest daughter. And finally, Marvel July Solicitations, same as the DC. This is just stuff that is new, ending, or otherwise noteworthy. There's a lot of stuff that's just kind of continuing, and that's not really worth noting because it's just continuing. We have Amazing Fantasy #1. The Amazing Fantasy series is returning, and is going to be written and drawn by Kare Andrews. I have seen some of his art around. If you've seen the signature Kare, Kaare, just kind of simply mono, at the bottom of a picture, that is Kare Andrews. Fairly popular variant cover artist. I don't think I've ever seen their interiors on anything, so this is kind of an exciting potential first look at something from them doing an interior. We also have Sinister War #1 of 4, which is going to be by Nick Spencer and Mark Bagley. This is following the 2 Sinister Six teams that are going to be warring each other as well as Peter Parker. So this is basically Peter Parker's worst nightmare come to life. It's like a really bad nightmare. Probably not his worst nightmare, but it's a pretty bad one. Extreme Carnage Alpha, I have already discussed on this podcast before, but July we will be having Extreme Carnage Alpha #1, Scream #1, and Phage #1, all from that series, all tying in together. July also brings X-Men #1, which is the new team by Gary Duggan with the characters of Cyclops, Marvel Girl, Sunfire, Rogue, Wolverine, Sync, and Polaris. And Wolverine, of course, being X-23. That's a really cool lineup for the most part, and I'm looking forward to see what they have in store for them. Moon Knight is also getting a new series written by Jed McKay. I believe it is ongoing, and that starts as well in July. There is the Amazing Spider-Man Annual Number 2 by Carla Pacheco, as well as Thor Annual Number 1 by Aaron Cooter, that are going to be tying into the Infinite Destinies mini event, I suppose, where the Infinity Stones are turning into people, similarly to how Star already has the reality gem. The rest of them are going to kind of be fusing themselves to people as well. There is also going to be a new Alien series by Benjamin Percy called Aliens Aftermath that starts in July. Marauders number 2 is noteworthy simply because it has the character Lourdes Chantal on the cover with Emma Frost. Lourdes is the wife of that guy from the Hellfire Club whose name I can't remember right now. He's the bad one who they were just warring with. Oh god, I can't believe I can't remember. He's the Black King, I guess is what he would be called. King, yeah, because they're the queens, yeah. So this was his wife who sacrificed herself to save him back in like the 80s or the 90s or something. It was a while ago. I'm pretty sure it was the 80s, the early 80s. So she hasn't been around since then. She's been dead. So really fun, in my opinion. I love it when you get these deep cut, of course, especially female characters, and pull them up to kind of modernize them, bring them back into existence after kind of not being there for a while. So this is going to be kind of fun, even though I'm not 100% familiar with her character. I did a little bit of Googling after I saw her on this cover, but I think it's very exciting that she will be returning in whatever form that will be. Avengers number 46 is that painful, probably She-Hulk arc. We'll see what the hell they do with that. It's gonna be a thing. And then we have America Chavez Made in the USA number 4 of 5 coming out in July, which is noteworthy because I did not realize that it was only going to be 5 issues until I saw this, and I am sad. And finally, Daredevil number 32 of July is still going to have Elektra as Daredevil, which is exciting. And you should be excited too. And that wraps up the solicitations, and that wraps up the podcast for today. If you did make it this far into the podcast, thank you so much for listening. I hope you found something towards the end here that made it worth your time. I wish I had a joke to tell you, to make you laugh, or to make you think that I'm funny. But in any case, thank you very much for listening, as always. This podcast is available anywhere podcasts stream, I think besides Pandora. I have yet to figure out why Pandora won't let me put it on them, but I put it on them. Sorry. There's your joke. But anyway, if you are watching or listening to this on YouTube, please like and subscribe and follow and all of that lovely things so people can see this video more often and their suggestions. And if you are viewing it anywhere else, please rate or subscribe or comment or vote or whatever it is that you can do on the streaming service that you're listening to this on. Please do so, because then, like I said, it will get more people to watch and listen if there are more reviews, positive and things like that. You can also find me online. My website is sensationalshegeek.weebly.com. I do have a YouTube page where, as I post these podcasts, I also post reviews of action figures. Today I will be recording and posting either today or tomorrow the Marvel's Katy from Shang Chi, The Legend of the Ten Rings, her official Marvel Legends action figure, which I will be pulling out with the questionable dragon, which is not to scale with them, but oh well, as well as the MCU Shang-Chi and the Marvel Shang-Chi to compare with her. And she's a pretty cool figure, so make sure you check that out sometime this week. It will be up in the next few days at the very latest. You can also find me on Instagram. My username is Anna with the Comics. I post only about comics, because that's the persona that I would like to be out there publicly. And I am also on Twitter at Savage She-Geek, because sensational was too many letters. And once again, thank you very much for listening this far to the podcast. I hope you have a lovely week. Today is Monday, so hope you are able to muscle through it. And I hope this podcast brings you a little bit of joy in an otherwise whatever it is week that you're having. In the meantime, I will be back let's see, Friday the 30th of April. It's the last day of April this Friday, and I'll be talking about my comic book picks, things that I enjoyed from this week's comics, as well as whatever in pop culture media might be happening that's related to comic books or the various nerd industries. I might be discussing that as well on Friday, because there's always something. Until then, keep it sweaty, and don't be an asshole.